After the college entrance exams, when we were taking graduation photos, I was stopped by Rudolph outside the basketball court. "Heather, you're the accomplice who turned my sister into a living dead. How dare you come to take our class graduation photo, if possible? I wish I'd never have to see you again in this lifetime." Watching Rudolph brush past me, I silently clenched the medical report in my hand. The doctor said there's a tumor growing in my brain, and I can no longer attend university. Rudolph will probably never know. His words became a prophecy. After this summer, he would never see me again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Cicadas sang loudly, and summer was at its peak. I stood by the basketball court, secretly taking a graduation photo of myself with Rudolph on my phone. The photo was dappled with light and shadow. I opened my phone's memo app, using voice-to-text to record my thoughts. June 12, 2024. 10:00 a.m. I took graduation photos with Rudolph today. He didn't have his usual smile. His eyes held nothing but hatred for me. Suddenly, I couldn't remember why Rudolph hated me. Opening the last memo, I finally remembered those fragmented memories. A month ago, Rudolph's sister Kate and I went to KTV to relieve the stress of the college entrance exams. On our way home, we encountered some thugs. To protect me, she was stabbed in the heart by a shattered beer bottle and has been lying in the hospital unconscious ever since. The doctor said only a heart transplant could give her a slim chance of survival, otherwise, she would remain a living dead forever. Thinking of Rudolph's eyes filled with hatred, I knew there would forever be a scar between us. I turned off my phone and was about to leave when a basketball suddenly flew over, hitting me square in the back with a thud. Losing my balance, I fell to the ground, my knee slamming hard against the concrete, scraping off a patch of skin that quickly turned bloody. A few male classmates walked over, looking down at me from above. "Heather, how dare you show your face here after putting Rudolph's sister in the hospital? You being shameless is one thing, but dragging Kate into this, how could our school have such a vicious classmate? Get out now, or we'll beat you up every time we see you." After they left, I wiped the cement dust off my knees and elbows in disarray, then stood up to see the scorching sun overhead. The tall and wiry Rudolph cast a shadow over me. "Heather, stop putting on that pitiful act, it's disgusting. The one who really deserves pity is my sister." Biting back the pain, I explained to him again and again as usual. That day, it was Kate who asked me to call security. That's why I ran off. I never thought Kate would have an accident in just 1 minute. If I could, I'd trade my life to wake her up. "Fine, if you can wake her up, then I'll believe you." Rudolph fluttered his eyelashes slightly, his icy voice dripping with sarcasm. "Kate can only wake up after a heart transplant. Someone as cowardly as you, would you really be willing to give her your own heart?" With that, he turned and walked away. I watched his receding figure and softly replied, "Yes, I'm willing to let go." 2 years ago, the doctor told me there was a tumor growing in my brain. If it couldn't be controlled, I wouldn't make it to university. I took my medicine religiously and underwent every treatment, fighting desperately just to survive. But alas, things didn't go as I'd hoped. The tumor is growing, and my memory is deteriorating day by day. Since I can't change the outcome, let my heart continue beating somewhere else. After leaving school, I went straight to the Red Cross. "Hello. I'd like to sign a designated heart donation agreement." The staff member glanced at me. "Sorry, we don't accept donations from living people." I pulled out a crumpled medical report from my backpack. "I have malignant glioblastoma. My grandmother and mother both died from it. The doctors say I won't live past this summer, so I want my heart to keep beating to help my friend recover." The staff member reviewed my documents and then handed me the application form. "After filling out this application, you'll need a guardian to come and sign a document." I shook my head. "Both my parents have passed away, and besides, I'm already 18, I can be my own guardian." With that, I solemnly signed my name on the voluntary donation agreement, and wrote the name Kate in the beneficiary field for the heart. After I finished filling out the form, the staff member pointed to the blank space at the bottom. "You'll need to fill in the emergency contact section as well." After hesitating for a moment, I still wrote down Rudolph's name and his phone number. Rudolph wishes most for Kate to recover her health. When he learns this news later, he'll surely be overjoyed. After leaving the Red Cross, my phone alarm reminded me it was time for my part-time job at the milk tea shop. Walking along the road, I spotted my younger brother Ollie sitting on the steps of an internet cafe with several boys, smoking cigarettes. His youthful face bore dark circles that didn't match his age. My heart tightened, and I quickly walked over. "Ollie, it's Tuesday today. Why are you skipping class again?" Do you plan to quit school? Ollie saw me and stubbed out his cigarette. What's the point of studying? Might as well make money playing games. I gripped his arm tightly. The college entrance exams are next year. How can you possibly get into university like this? Come on, let's go back to school with me. Ollie shook me off with an impatient scowl. Why can you work and earn money but I can't? Heather, I don't need you meddling, get lost. With that, he shoved me out and slammed the door shut behind me. I stumbled and nearly fell down the steps, left to watch through the glass door as Ollie sat back down at the computer with his headphones on. The internet cafe staff wouldn't let me in. I could only leave the gaming lounge, turning back every few steps as I walked. I opened my phone's notepad app once again. At 3 p.m. on my way to my part-time job, I discovered my younger brother had skipped class again. He was smoking and gaming at an internet cafe, indulging in every bad habit a high school student shouldn't have. Our parents passed away early, and now my brother spends all his time addicted to internet cafes. If I were to die, what would become of him if he remains this irresponsible? After finishing my notes, I arrived at the milk tea shop's entrance but suddenly felt lost. What was I here for again? I glanced at today's schedule and suddenly realized I was working a part-time shift here. Just as I was about to enter the store, the manager walked over. Heather, this is your 6th time being late. You're fired, here's your pay for this month. The manager finished speaking and placed 500 yuan in my hand. My face instantly turned pale. I'm sorry, manager. Please give me another chance. I really need this job. I must save money for my younger brother while I'm still healthy, so he won't have to worry about his education in the future. But the manager shook his head. I've given you many chances already. Go home. You should rest well after finishing your college entrance exams and prepare for university life. Dazed, I turned to head home when I saw Rudolph pushing a black mountain bike coming this way. The young man's tall figure shone brilliantly in the sunlight. I instinctively called out, Rudolph. When he saw me, Rudolph frowned in disgust, stopped his mountain bike, and entered the milk tea shop. 1 strawberry milk tea, less ice, less sugar, with sago and mochi. As Rudolph's order reached my ears, I suddenly remembered, this was Kate's favorite strawberry special in the past. Every Saturday, Rudolph would buy her a strawberry milk tea and bring it to the hospital room. And today happened to be Saturday. He was probably on his way to deliver milk tea to Kate at the hospital. The sound of the door opening echoed, and Rudolph emerged holding a cup of milk tea. I opened my mouth, my voice hoarse as I asked, Rudolph, can I go with you to see Kate? Rudolph paused mid-push of his bicycle. What right does a culprit like you have to see her? You'll meet Kate only over your dead body, get lost. With that, Rudolph shoved me aside and rode off into the distance. Considering my physical condition, I silently followed after him. I knew that if I didn't find a chance to see Kate one more time, I would never see her again. Not long after I set out, the sky darkened as storm clouds loomed over the city. I looked up to see rain drizzling down from what had been a crystal clear sky, catching me completely off guard. Without an umbrella, I could only trudge forward through the puddles like a stray dog, while waiting at the bus stop. Rudolph's black mountain bike laden with milk tea and flowers passed by me. The wheels splashed through a puddle with a splash, drenching me head to toe in muddy water. A gust of wind blew, and I felt chilled to the bone from head to toe. After a long bus ride, I finally arrived at the hospital. In front of the intensive care unit, I saw Kate lying on the hospital bed, covered with tubes of various colors. Rudolph placed a strawberry milk tea and flowers on the bedside table, holding a romance novel tenderly as he read to her. Watching this scene, my eyes welled up with tears. Kate had always loved reading novels. Back then, she would hug me and say, Heather, you can actually learn things from novels. It says twins have a psychic connection. You see, you're my favorite person. And you're also Big Brother's favorite. But Kate, now that Rudolph doesn't like me anymore, do you not like me either? Through the glass on the hospital room door, I gently traced Kate's face from afar. Kate, the three of us originally promised to attend the same university, but you missed the college entrance exam to save me. But it's okay, soon, I'll give you my heart, and then you and your brother can go to the same university together. I secretly watched Kate for a long time, until Rudolph stood up to leave, and I hurriedly fled the hospital. When I got home, I was still soaking wet, so I went straight into the bathroom. As the hot water cascaded over my head, that sticky, chilling sensation finally began to fade. After showering, I lay in bed and, as usual, pulled the robotic dog from the nightstand into my arms. This robotic dog was left to me by my mother before she passed away, its surface now mottled with signs of age, but Mom said it was loyal and could stay by my side in her stead. I pressed the record button. Today, I lost my job at the milk tea shop. It was a part-time job I worked so hard to get. But I messed it up. I also went to the hospital to see Kate. She's thinner than before, like a sleeping beauty. It's just that Rudolph wouldn't let me into the ward. Maybe only when Kate wakes up will he finally have a proper conversation with me. But by that time, I would have already turned into a handful of yellow earth, buried deep underground. I spoke so much to the robotic dog before finally closing my eyes heavily, perhaps because I got caught in the rain. I slept very restlessly that night. The next day, my mind was in a daze when I was abruptly awakened by the shrill ringing of the telephone. "Heather, your brother Ollie skipped class and got into a fight. Come to the school immediately." Hearing this, I snapped awake and rushed to the school principal's office. I saw Rudolph, his face bruised purple and green, standing opposite Ollie. My heart skipped a beat. Ollie had actually beaten up Rudolph. Seeing me, the principal got straight to the point. "Heather, your brother, as a sophomore, skipped class. I won't even mention that, but this time he actually assaulted an upperclassman. Student Rudolph and others have jointly demanded Ollie's expulsion. Here are his academic records." Hearing this, I hurriedly looked at Rudolph. "Rudolph, I'm sorry. I'll pay for the medical expenses from Ollie hurting you. Please forgive him. Don't let the school expel him. Ever since our parents died, my younger brother has transformed from a model student with excellent grades into a troubled youth who skips classes to play online games. I failed to take good care of him. Before I leave, I can't let him lose his chance at education." Beside me, Ollie interrupted indignantly. "It was Rudolph who spoke offensively. That's why I hit him. I don't need you apologizing for me." Rudolph wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth expressionlessly. "In that case, there's no need for forgiveness." He walked over to me and continued in a voice only I could hear. "My sister can't take the college entrance exam, and your brother won't be eligible either." With those words, he opened the door and walked out. Rudolph, after Ollie left, he grabbed his backpack and rushed out after him. I bent down to bow apologetically to the principal, then hurried after him. "Ollie, stop right there." But Ollie wouldn't listen at all. Walking straight to the garbage station and throwing his backpack in with a single motion. "Who told you to apologize to him? He ruined your reputation. He deserved to be hit. Expulsion is fine. I didn't want to go to school anyway. This just means I can start working to earn your college tuition." He lazily lit a cigarette and pulled out a bank card to hand to me. "This is the money I earned from power leveling. I've grown up now. I can take care of myself and you too." I looked at Ollie's wrist plaster and the dark circles under his eyes from staying up late gaming, feeling a pang of bitterness in my heart. Suddenly, a warm sensation flooded my nose as a drop of blood fell onto the bank card in my hand. Ollie froze. "What's wrong with you?" I wiped my nose. But the blood kept flowing more and more, seeing Ollie's lost and helpless expression. I felt utterly powerless too. "Ollie, I no longer have a future. If you don't want to go to school now, what will you do later? How am I supposed to explain this to Mom and Dad when I see them over there?" I tilted my head back to wipe away the nosebleed, only to find Rudolph standing under the ginkgo tree across from me, staring straight at me, who knows for how long. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly turned my face away. By the time I wiped off the blood and looked up again, Rudolph had already turned and walked into the ginkgo-lined avenue without so much as a glance in my direction. Ollie, however, looked at me with great concern. "What's wrong with you? Did you get heatstroke from the weather?" I shook my head, momentarily at a loss for how to explain my condition clearly. Ollie seemed irritated. He threw his cigarette to the ground, crushed it underfoot, then waved and walked away. "If you're not feeling well, go home and rest. I'm going back to grinding for money." I wanted to call out to him, but he rode off on his bicycle and vanished in the blink of an eye. I sighed helplessly. "Ollie, what will you do alone from now on?" When I was 10 years old, my mother passed away from the torment of a glioblastoma. 2 years ago, my father also died unexpectedly in a car accident on his way to buy a birthday cake for my younger brother. Now, I'm about to die too. I picked up Ollie's backpack from the trash station, carefully brushed off the stains, and went home. My stomach growled with emptiness, and my head felt dizzy. Only then did I realize I hadn't eaten anything since morning. I cooked a bowl of glutinous rice balls and brought it to the living room. Gazing at my parents' portrait, I scooped one rice ball into my mouth. The sesame-filled glutinous rice ball burst open in my mouth, yet I couldn't taste a hint of sweetness. "Mom, you always said the sweetness of rice balls could suppress life's bitterness. But why can't I taste any sweetness at all? Little brother doesn't want to study anymore, and I'm about to die too. My life, it's all just a tangled mess." Tears fell one after another into my bowl, creating ripples across the surface. The wind outside the window lifted the curtains, brushing past my ear like a mother's hand gently caressing me. After finishing a bowl of tangyuan, I broke into a sweat. My groggy mind felt slightly better. After resting, I resumed my search for summer jobs. To make sure my younger brother has a better life in the future, I need to save more money. I walked down the long street, asking shop after shop, only to be rejected every time. It wasn't until 2 p.m., under the scorching sun, that I finally found a part-time job handing out flyers near my apartment complex. On the sweltering summer street, I wore a heavy bear mascot costume, weaving through the crowd to hand out flyers. The furry mascot costume was completely airtight. And after just a short while of wearing it, I was already drenched in sweat. A group of children came running towards me, jumping and dancing around me excitedly. "Look, it's a bear, I want it to play with me." The lead boy suddenly grabbed my bear tail and gave it a hard yank. I lost my balance, staggered backward, and fell flat on my butt, scattering the flyers in my hand all over the ground. The other kids swarmed in, some kicked my legs, others pummeled me with their fists. The chubbiest one even climbed onto my back, shouting, "Giddy up, riding the dumb bear." The weight on my body was crushing me, making it hard to breathe, and waves of throbbing pain pulsed through my head. Suddenly, a familiar voice reached my ears. "Stop it, she's not your plaything." As soon as the words fell, the weight on me abruptly lightened, and the group of children scattered in all directions. "Are you okay?" I sat up and removed the headpiece, meeting a pair of amber eyes. Rudolph. His expression instantly turned icy, clearly not expecting to find me inside the teddy bear costume. "Heather, are you serious? Pulling this sympathy stunt again?" I instinctively replied, "No, I'm just working a summer job, Mrs." Elton walked over from behind him and handed me a bottle of cold water. "Have some water, don't get heat stroke." I reached out to take it. "Thanks, godmother." "Mrs." Elton remained silent for a moment. "You don't need to call me godmother anymore. Take care. Take care of yourself." My heart ached. I knew she was suffering more than I'd imagined. That bottle of water she gave me was already the greatest redemption she could offer. If only I hadn't left back then, or if I'd let Kate go first, things might have been different. "I'm sorry, at this moment. I don't know what else I can say besides these 3 words. Mrs." Elton walked toward the neighborhood entrance with Rudolph. Her eyes reddened, without responding to me. Just then, a black car pulled over by the roadside. I saw a person in professional attire step out of the car, take out a document, and hand it to Mrs. Elton. "Mrs. Elton, the hospital says they found a matching heart. Here's the donor's information." My breath caught. Had he already found out so quickly that I was the one donating my heart to Kate? Rudolph grabbed the documents, a long absent smile spreading across his face. "That's great, Kate is finally saved, but why is the donor's name anonymous?" The person explained, to protect the donor's privacy, their name must remain anonymous. Hearing this, I breathed a sigh of relief. It's good that my information wasn't disclosed. This way, I can peacefully live out the rest of my days. Coming home after a day's work, I ordered the cheapest urn online. On the day it arrived, I held that small urn in my hands. It felt like clutching a block of frozen ice, piercingly cold. Suddenly I remembered how my father had held a similar box on the night of my mother's funeral, sitting before the morning hall until dawn. Later, when father passed, I too held his ashes in a box and sat through the night in that same hall. At the time, its weight felt like it would crush me entirely. But when my time comes, will my younger brother have the strength to bear this crushing weight? Thinking about Ollie, who was almost expelled after being accused of beating up Rudolph. I want to go to the school again and beg the principal for mercy. I can't go to college anymore, but my little brother mustn't miss his chance at education. Walking through the neighborhood, I suddenly saw Rudolph carrying a large bag of stuff, about to throw it into the trash. The transparent plastic bag was filled with all the gifts I had ever given him. There was the woven dragonfly I gave him when I was 5, the paper cranes I folded for him at 10, and the scarf I knitted for him myself when I turned 18. My heart tightened, and I quickly asked, "Why are you throwing all these things away?" Rudolph gave me a cold glance. "Anything related to you should be completely discarded." As he finished speaking, he let go of his hand. Slap, the sound of shattering glass rang out, and a pile of colorful Lucky Stars scattered across the floor. A pink Lucky Star landed at my feet. I stood there, feeling only the biting cold of the wind, watching Rudolph's receding figure. I couldn't help but speak with a choked voice. "I heard Kate has already found a matching heart donor, after her transplant surgery. She'll surely recover quickly." Rudolph paused mid-step. "But even if she recovers, our family will never forgive you." He tilted his head slightly. sunlight casting a shadow beneath his aquiline nose. So in this lifetime, let's never meet again. I waited until Rudolph's figure disappeared into the stairwell before daring to respond. Yeah, we really won't meet again. I carefully picked up everything from the trash can and took it all back. These were all our memories. He could throw them away, but I couldn't bear to. After putting everything back in place, I went to school, petitioning the principal to revoke the expulsion of Ollie. The principal said they need to discuss with Rudolph and others before giving me a response. Ollie is actually promising material. Even his homeroom teacher doesn't want to give up on him. Having a sensible older sister like you is his good fortune. Thank you, principal. I bowed deeply to the principal before walking away with a sense of relief. The scorching sun blazed overhead, yet I felt an icy chill throughout my body, struggling to catch my breath. The tumor in my head seemed to be feasting on my brain again, the pain so intense that the world spun and twisted around me. I knew my condition had worsened. While still conscious, I quickly called the Red Cross's Dr. Ivan and had him take me to the hospital. Inside the hospital ward, Dr. Ivan looked at me with pity after discussing my condition with the attending physician. There's no medication left that can control your condition now. Hearing this, I smiled bitterly. I know. That's why I called you. My heart, you must protect it for me. Please. Dr. Ivan didn't respond, only hurriedly left the ward. I've actually always known that he's a very good doctor. After Dr. Ivan left, I found a flyer on the bedside table. Clear Sky Television is filming a documentary about death featuring end-of-life subjects, with a cash reward of 100,000 yuan for participants. Thinking about how much money this filming opportunity could bring, I immediately picked up my phone and dialed the contact number listed. 100,000 yuan is enough Ollie to graduate from university. That same day, the TV station sent me an electronic agreement. The documentary will officially begin filming next Monday, and your life will be recorded in its entirety thereafter. I clicked the link, submitted my ID information, and signed my name. Next Monday is the deadline for submitting college applications. But I haven't checked my scores or filled out any forms. After all, with my current pitiful physical condition, whether I apply or not doesn't matter anymore. What I never expected was that Rudolph would actually call me on his own initiative. Heather, why haven't you submitted your applications? I never would have thought Rudolph would ask me about filling out college applications. My hands trembled as I held the phone, feeling the urge to be bold for the first time. I said, because I'm dying. On the other end of the line, Rudolph remained silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice carried a bone-chilling coldness. Heather, if I'd known you were such a habitual liar, I think I might have preferred never knowing you. With that, he hung up the phone. I stared blankly at the phone screen as it dimmed from bright to dark, unable to snap out of my daze for a long time. In the end, I still couldn't tell the truth. Time flew by, and soon it was the day of the documentary shoot. I don't know if it's because I managed to raise the 100,000 yuan for my younger brother, leaving me without worries. These days, my body has been deteriorating rapidly. I often feel sleepy and increasingly exhausted. The staff from Clear Sky TV entered my hospital room early that morning. Watching the red light on the recording camera turn on, I adjusted my blue and white striped hospital gown. Simultaneously opening the memo app on my phone, I put on what I believed to be my most charming smile. Hello, my name is Heather, a senior student from Class 1, Grade 12 at City N High School. I'm sorry to meet you all under such circumstances, but before the documentary begins, allow me to selfishly take a moment to atone for the mistakes I once made. I didn't dare to look at the staff's astonished expressions, but I continued speaking nonetheless. Rudolph, I'm sorry to bid you farewell in this manner. By the time you see this documentary, I will already be dead. Though I don't know if you'll grieve for me, I must say it again, I'm sorry. On the day Kate had her accident, I didn't mean to abandon her. She told me to go find security for help. That's why I ran off. I never expected that by the time I brought people back, Kate had already been hurt. But if I could do it over, I wish I had been the one who stood in front of that group that day. Unfortunately, there are no second chances in this world. So I've decided to repay your family's kindness to me these years in another way. Mrs. Elton, after my death, my heart will be voluntarily donated to Kate. She'll wake up soon and regain her health. I also hope that after I die, all of you can let go of the past and not dislike my brother because you hate me. Finishing these words drained much of my strength, and the oxygen tube beneath my nose kept slipping off. The TV crew asked me to rest. Just as I leaned against the headboard to drink water, my brother Ollie called, "Why aren't you at home? How come the bank card I gave you is just lying on the table?" I looked at the camera beside me and said softly, I'm working a summer job now, and when university starts, I'll go straight to school without coming home. Remember to take good care of yourself. If the school contacts you to attend classes, you must go. I've already washed your backpack and left it in your room. My incessant chatter was making Ollie somewhat impatient. Got it, stop nagging already. The principal called me today. I'll keep going to school, but I won't give up on being a game booster either. I pressed my lips together, holding back the tears in my eyes as I spoke. Ollie, you're turning 18 soon. You're an adult now. Take good care of the family. Wipe the dust off mom and dad's urns when you have time. Don't let them feel lonely. Ollie's voice tightened. Why does this sound like last words? Why say so much all of a sudden? I promise the house will be spotless when you return, just like it is now. Gotta go. After hanging up the phone, I stared at Ollie's number and softly replied, As I spoke, a drop of nosebleed fell from my nostril. I deftly pulled a tissue from the bedside table to wipe it away. Then I smiled at the cameraman and said, sorry about that. At this moment Dr. Ivan arrived. He placed a red wristband symbolizing hospice care on my hand, then looked at me with a grave expression. Is there anything else you need me to do? I knew my time was running out. I opened the photo of the robotic dog and handed it to him to see. I'd like you to help me bring my robotic dog from home. It was a gift from my mother. It wasn't until the documentary crew finished filming for the day and left that Dr. Ivan finally delivered my robotic dog. I stroked its mottled patterns and played my mother's final recording. My dear, it was only after giving birth to you that I learned our family carries the hereditary disease of glioblastoma. A mere 5% chance actually fell upon us. Had I known this illness would be passed on to you, I would never have brought you into this world. Your father and I had your younger brother solely hoping to use his hematopoietic stem cells to cure you, but it failed. You had no choice in selecting me as your mother. If not for me, you could have gone to a happy family and had a healthy body. I'm sorry, my child. Tears instantly streamed down my face as I cradled the robotic dog against my left chest, listening to the rhythm of my own heartbeat, and so I held the robot all night long, listening to the recordings until dawn. The rising sun painted the sky orange-red, its light filtering through the curtains like the final glow of sunset. I suddenly wanted to go out for a walk, to feel what might be my last taste of freedom, yet I could clearly sense my current physical state. Even getting out of bed would be quite difficult. In the following days, the documentary crew continued to arrive punctually to film my daily routines and inquire about the trajectory of my life. For the first time, I realized that my existence could be prolonged in such a way, but my memory is getting worse and worse, and I'm starting to forget I even have a younger brother. I'm also beginning to forget why I fell ill in the first place. I frequently flip through my notes, reciting them night after night, and it seems to be gradually having some effect. On the final day of filming the documentary, I suddenly felt as if my body had improved significantly, and my spirits lifted. I asked the staff if they could give me a camera, as I wanted to visit my friend who was also in the hospital. The staff looked at my pale face, hesitated for a moment, and then handed me a clip-on miniature camera. We'll be recording in real time. Press this emergency button if you need anything, they said. They pointed to a small red bump on the camera. I nodded in thanks, somewhat clumsily clipping the camera to my collar, then, supporting myself, I got up from the hospital bed and walked along the corridor toward Kate's ward. Never did I expect to run into Rudolph. The boy stood against the light, his silhouette bathed in golden edges, making me momentarily forget to breathe. Heather, why are you back at Kate's ward? I looked toward Kate's hospital room door, seeing her lying on the bed through the glass window, as still as a sleeping beauty. I glanced down at the camera on my collar, its tiny red light blinking rhythmically like the beat of my heart. I wanted to tell him I came for one last look at Kate. The words that came out, however, turned into, I'm sorry. I wanted to run away, Rudolph, but he sneered coldly. What? Now you're starting to paint your face deathly pale and wear a hospital gown to play the victim for me. If that's the case, then I hope you'll only come wandering in front of me on the day you're really going to die. With that, he walked straight into the ward. Watching his retreating figure, I was suddenly struck by a dull ache, my entire body twisting with inexplicable pain. I braced myself against the wall, trying to steady my footing, but still collapsed to the ground like a heap of mud. It hurts so much. The tumor in my head is swelling like a balloon, devouring my entire skull and nerves. A warm stream trickled down my nostrils, filling every breath with the metallic tang of blood. Through blurred vision, I faintly saw nurses rushing toward me. Someone seemed to be helping me stop the bleeding. Someone called for a stretcher. while another person lifted my wrist to check the information on the red bracelet. My consciousness grew increasingly muddled, and my vision faded to near total grey-black. In my dazed state, I seemed to return to that early summer of my first year in high school. I saw Rudolph riding his bicycle, ringing the bell with a cheerful ding-a-ling as he laughed and pedaled toward me. "Heather, time for school." On the other side, Rudolph had barely entered the ward when he saw medical staff rushing past through the glass panel on the door. He intended to step out for a look, but his phone suddenly rang. "Rudolph, the doctor just called me. They said Kate's heart surgery might happen today." It was Mrs. Elton's voice. Rudolph felt his heart inexplicably sink, then asked, "The volunteer? Did they pass away?" "They're still in resuscitation, but I heard it's not looking good. You should help Kate get ready first. Your father and I are on our way to the hospital." After hanging up, Rudolph sat by the hospital bed and gently held Kate's hand. "Kate, when you wake up, I'll take you to thank that volunteer together." Okay, it should have been a joyous occasion, yet Rudolph felt an oppressive weight in his chest, almost suffocating. He didn't understand what was happening to him. When suddenly Heather's figure flashed across his mind, remembering her concern for Kate, he still picked up his phone and sent her a message. "Heather, Kate is scheduled for her heart transplant surgery today. Once successful, you won't need to keep up the act anymore. Let's each go our own way and live well." After sending the message, no reply came for a long time. Rudolph felt unsettled and, on impulse, clicked to delete the contact. Soon, Mrs. Elton and the others arrived. The cardiac surgeon just arrived at the ward, saying they needed to prepare Kate for surgery. The volunteer's brain tumor rescue failed. Since the donor is similar in age to the patient, the risk of heart rejection is very low. Please rest assured, family members. Rudolph and his parents watched as she was wheeled into the operating room, then waited anxiously in the long corridor outside, even though the doctors had said the heart transplant had a high success rate. Rudolph still felt an inexplicable panic creeping in. He pressed his hand against his chest, praying incessantly. 6 hours later, the operating room lights went out, and the doors swung open as several doctors wheeled out 2 hospital beds. Rudolph immediately rushed over, just as one of the doctors spoke. "The surgery was very successful. As long as there's no rejection after 2 days of observation in the ICU, we can transfer to a regular ward," another doctor sighed with regret. "I heard the donor was this year's college entrance examinee. The girl passed away before even filling out her application forms. What a tragedy." Rudolph felt his heart drop upon hearing this. He quickly glanced toward the operating room and saw a pale hand slipping out from under the white sheet covering the hospital bed. As the bed was wheeled past them, a red wristband was still visible on the wrist. The name on it read, "Heather." Rudolph's pupils suddenly contracted as he rushed over in panic. Trembling hands lifting the white cloth, there lay Heather's pallid face. His breath hitched violently, his hands dropping uncontrollably. Heather, he couldn't believe what was before his eyes. Just a few days ago everything was fine. How could she suddenly be lying here? Hearing Rudolph's words, Mrs. Elton and Mr. Elton were also stunned. "Heather, the one lying here is Heather." Mrs. Elton glanced at the pale-faced person lying on the bed, then took a doctor's hand and asked, "Doctor, is the person who donated the heart to my daughter Heather?" The doctor withdrew his hand, his voice weary. "I'm sorry, we can't disclose that information. At this moment, the Red Cross's Dr. Ivan walked over and instructed other doctors to wheel Heather toward the morgue. Rudolph refused. "No, you can't take her away. You're not allowed to take her." Dr. Ivan frowned slightly. "I'm sorry, you're just Miss Heather's classmate and have no right to interfere with her disposition." Watching Heather being pushed further and further away, Rudolph suddenly lost all his strength. Recalling all the past moments, his heart ached more and more. "Heather, come back to me." But all that answered him was the sound of wheels growing ever more distant. Mrs. Elton watched the receding figure, her voice trembling. "Is our goddaughter really gone?" Mr. Elton gazed into the distance and let out a long sigh. "Honey, we shouldn't have blamed her back then. Deep down, we all knew she wasn't at fault. It's just that at the time, they all needed an outlet for their frustration, and Heather unfortunately became that target." Heather was pushed away. Rudolph followed behind Dr. Ivan as they walked toward the morgue. Just as he was about to enter, he was surrounded by reporters from Clear Sky Television. "Sir, may we ask what your relationship is with Miss Heather?" Rudolph clenched his fists, his heart filled with bitterness. "We are friends." The reporter from Clear Sky Television clearly remembered that Heather had no visitors besides them and Dr. Ivan before her passing, so they continued asking, "Since you were Miss Heather's friend, Why didn't you visit her during her hospitalization? Rudolph faced the camera, unsure of what to say. I don't know. He had no idea Heather was hospitalized. As soon as he finished speaking, countless fragments flashed through his mind. He knew it that day when he called Heather. She said she was dying, yet he hadn't believed her at all. Just yesterday, Heather stood before Kate's hospital room. She was emaciated, her face devoid of color, such obvious signs of illness, and he actually failed to notice them. So at that time, Heather had already arranged to donate her heart to Kate. After the reporter left, Mrs. Elton approached Rudolph. Son, let's give Heather a proper farewell. Rudolph nodded and went to find a doctor to handle Heather's affairs. Dr. Ivan stopped them. Miss Heather had already entrusted all her matters to me before her passing. There's no need for you to intervene. After speaking, he asked Rudolph and the others to leave first. There was no other way. Rudolph and Mrs. Elton had to return to Kate's ward first. Not long after they returned, the ward door was kicked open with a loud bang. Rudolph, get the hell out here. Rudolph looked at Ollie outside and stood up to head toward the door. As soon as he reached the door, he was punched in the face by Ollie. The excruciating pain made his head jerk to the side. This time, Rudolph didn't resist, letting Ollie land punch after punch on him. Mrs. Elton tried to intervene, but Rudolph spoke up directly. Mom, let him hit me. I deserve this. Ollie didn't hold back his strength just because Rudolph said so. He struck wildly like a madman, blow after blow landing on Rudolph's body. Give me back my sister. Give me back my sister. Medical staff quickly arrived on the scene. Stop this immediately. This is a hospital, not a place for brawling. Ollie was held back by a nurse as he stared at Rudolph's blooded face. Tears fell one by one from his eyes. Rudolph, I've lost my sister. She was so good to you. So good to you. Rudolph just stood there silently like a wooden stake, saying nothing. At that moment, Dr. Ivan took out a letter from his person and handed it to Ollie. Ollie, this is Miss Heather's suicide note. Ollie wiped the tears from his face and carefully took the letter. Ollie, I'm sorry, your sister lied to you. I wasn't working part-time, I've been staying at the hospital all along. Ollie, from now on your sister won't be able to take care of you anymore. You must study hard, go to school properly, and take good care of yourself. My urn is already prepared. When the time comes, place me with Mom and Dad. The three of us will become stars in the sky, watching over you together. Big sister willingly gave her heart to Kate. Don't hold resentment toward anyone. Big sister had glioblastoma and couldn't survive, but as long as my heart keeps beating, she'll still be alive. Rudolph stood behind Ollie, watching with an increasingly heavy heart. This 832-word suicide note didn't contain a single word about herself. Ollie carefully put the letter away and looked at Rudolph. Rudolph, you owe her for the rest of your life. After speaking, he followed Dr. Ivan to the morgue. Ollie stood aside, gazing at Heather's lifeless body, his heart feeling as if it were being repeatedly sliced by a blunt knife. Sis, why were you so foolish? Couldn't you have told me you were sick? Why did you have to hide it from me? Dr. Ivan let out a soft sigh as he stood nearby. Your sister didn't want you to see her at her most vulnerable, nor did she want your studies to suffer from overwhelming grief for her. Hearing this, Ollie cried even louder. At the end of life, not even family is by her side. Doesn't that make her sad? The more he thought about it, the more agonized he became, until he finally hugged Heather's body and wept uncontrollably. Sis, since their parents passed away, they had only had each other to rely on. With his sister gone, he had no family left in the world. Sis, how could you bear to leave me behind? Heather didn't have a memorial photo yet. Ollie opened her photo album after regaining his composure. When he saw the secretly taken group photo in his sister's phone, his dislike for Rudolph grew even stronger. Before going to print the photos, he noticed Rudolph standing outside, giving instructions to Dr. Ivan. Dr. Ivan, please don't let him in. I don't want him disturbing my sister's journey through the wheel of reincarnation. Only after seeing Dr. Ivan agree did Ollie take his phone and walk out. Ollie used the photo from Heather's exam admission ticket as her memorial portrait. In the photo, she was wearing her school uniform with her hair tied in a bun, her eyes curved into smiles. Ollie felt his eyes well up again. At the print shop, the owner kept sighing. So young to have passed away, what a shame. Ollie stroked his phone, bitterness spreading through his heart. His sister was only 18 years old. She should have had a bright future ahead of her, yet she left this world all alone. Returning from the print shop, Rudolph was still standing outside the morgue. Ollie ignored him and walked straight in, spent the night in the morgue with Heather. The next day, Dr. Ivan took him to the funeral home. This time, Rudolph's family was stopped outside again. Only when Ollie came out holding Heather's portrait and urn did Rudolph follow closely behind. He gazed at the face in the portrait, Heather. His heart wrenching with unbearable pain. Heather, he called out softly, but no one would ever answer him again. Rudolph followed them all the way to the Wen family's apartment building. Standing quietly beneath the camphor tree, Ollie cast him a cold glance, gently wiping the urns of his parents and sister with a cloth. Dad, Mom, Sis, rest assured, I'll study hard, get into a good university, and bring honor to our country. I'll never act foolishly again. With that, he slung his backpack over his shoulder and headed off to school. As he passed by Rudolph, he whispered in the other's ear, "Stop pretending to be sentimental here. My sister doesn't want to see you." Having said that, he walked away. Ollie had just left when Rudolph's phone rang. "Rudolph, Kate is awake and demanding to see you. Come back quickly." After hanging up, Rudolph cast a deep glance at Heather's room before turning to head to the hospital. When they arrived at the hospital, Kate still had an oxygen tube in her nose. She saw Rudolph, tightly grasped his hand, and kept asking, "Brother, Mom and Dad said Heather passed away. I don't believe it. Tell me, it's fake, it's fake." "Right." Rudolph looked at the frail Kate and lowered his head. "It's true." Kate's heart clenched, then suddenly released Rudolph. How could it be? She was such a wonderful girl, how could she die? As she spoke, Kate's tears began to fall, plop, plop. Rudolph clenched his fists and recounted everything that had happened after Kate lost consciousness. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said those harsh words to her back then." The more she listened, the more rapid Kate's breathing became. She clutched her chest, gasping for air in great heaves. "Brother, Heather, what kind of person is she, don't you know? How could you betray all these years of feelings between us?" As she finished speaking, she struggled to prop herself up. "I want to see Heather. I'm going to see her right now." The moment she spoke, the heart monitor began beeping urgently. Mrs. Elton flusteredly stopped her. "Kate, don't get worked up. Mom promises you. We'll go right now." Hearing Mrs. Elton's promise, Kate's emotions gradually stabilized. Watching the steadying monitor lines, Mrs. Elton let out a sigh of relief. After lifting Kate into the wheelchair, Rudolph moved to push her but was immediately refused. "Brother, I know you treated Kate that way for my sake. But I don't want to see you right now. Stop following me." Kate was pushed away by Mrs. Elton, yet Rudolph still slowly followed after her. As he passed by the residential building, he saw someone in a bear mascot costume handing out flyers again. The scene before him gradually overlapped with the one in his memories. He found himself walking over as if drawn by some unseen force. "Let me wear this mascot costume instead. I'll hand out the flyers for you." Shortly after putting on the costume, Rudolph was already drenched in sweat, so this was how exhausting it felt to distribute flyers while wearing a mascot suit. It happened to be the time when students were leaving school, and soon he found himself surrounded by a group of children. The bulky mascot costume made him clumsy, and the children pushed him to the ground. Someone started it first. "This bear is so dumb. Let's hit the dumb bear." Children's punches know no restraint, and soon he felt waves of sharp pain all over his body. Laughter erupted all around. "Exactly. This little bear is even dumber than the one the other day. Let's all hit it." Yeah, it's not even fighting back. Let's keep hitting it." A parent nearby shouted, "Stop bullying the little bear. Come back here." Yet despite these words, no one actually came forward to pull the child away. Rudolph lay curled up on the ground, sweat mingling with his eyelashes. In his daze, he seemed to see Heather. "Heather, have you come to save me?" But what greeted Rudolph was still a relentless barrage of fists. He hugged his arms tightly, thinking of the original Heather. "Heather, when they hit you back then, were you this helpless too? I saved you back then. Can't you appear and save me too?" Ollie returned home from school and saw Kate and Mrs. Elton waiting at the door. "What are you doing here?" Mrs. Elton spoke first. Kate wanted to come pay her respects to Heather. Ollie clutched his backpack straps tightly. "Pay respects? More like coming to laugh at us, isn't it?" Mrs. Elton was about to speak again. Kate shook her head at her. She had Mrs. Elton push her in front of Ollie, gently holding his hand. "Ollie, my heart is Heather's. I am your own sister." Ollie clenched his palm, his voice trembling slightly. "But you're not her." Kate looked at the slightly trembling figure and sighed softly. "From now on, I will be her." With that, Kate reached up and rubbed Ollie's ear, feeling the warmth on his ear tip. Ollie's mind exploded with a buzz. It was a gesture his sister used to do to him. In the sunset's glow, the figure before him gradually overlapped with Heather. Ollie sobbed and hugged Kate tightly. Thump, thump, thump. Kate's heartbeat pulsed relentlessly in his ears. Its bouncing motion was exactly the same as her sister's. Sister. This was truly his sister. His sister had returned. Kate whispered soothingly, "Be good, don't cry, I'll always be with you, carrying your sister's love with me." Ollie lay across her lap, sniffling softly as he murmured a faint "Amham, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have skipped school back then, shouldn't have wasted time playing games online, I should have listened to you and studied properly, it's my fault, I was wrong, I just don't want you to work so hard, I'm sorry." Kate sighed softly, her voice growing even gentler. "It's all right, I don't blame you, little sister," feeling the rhythmic pulse of a heartbeat near her ear. Ollie's breathing gradually slowed. "I can treat you as my sister, but I won't let go of my grudge against Rudolph." Kate gently stroked Ollie's head. It's all right, you can do whatever you want. Whatever wishes your sister had left, I can fulfill them for her. Ollie, will you help me complete them?" Ollie's voice was muffled. "I can." Her elder sister once said that when she earned enough money, she would travel across every river and mountain of their homeland, but the world is so vast, and she left before she could truly see it. But it's all right, he could walk the remaining paths in her stead. The twilight dimmed slightly as a gentle breeze swept from afar. Rustling the camphor trees nearby, a camphor leaf fell onto Ollie's shoulder, soothing his fractured heart. Ollie sent Kate to the hospital. Rudolph stood once more beneath the camphor tree, wearing that trampled bear costume. When they were children and the adults were often away from home, the three of them loved climbing from tree to reach each other's rooms. As they climbed, they grew up, and so did the tree. Just as he reached the fork of the branches, Rudolph suddenly noticed some words carved above. He reached out and slowly traced them with his fingers. "Time may age, but we'll never part." Rudolph, Kate, Heather, those crooked characters burned like red-hot branding irons, searing deep into his heart. They'd once promised that as long as time endured, their friendship would never fade, but now the group had scattered, and the three letters spelling Heather had quietly cracked under the battering of wind and rain. Many things had unknowingly become settled long ago. Rudolph subconsciously reached out to touch those distorted three characters, but his fingertips hovered mid-air before abruptly withdrawing. Amidst the undulating cicada songs, he leaned against the tree gazing toward Heather's room. White curtains fluttered as moonlight spilled inside, revealing a table full of gifts. His eyes suddenly widened. These were all the things he had thrown into the trash that day. Turns out Heather had picked them all back up. The window snapped open with a sharp crack. Rudolph climbed in through the window. Just as he always did whenever Heather got mad at him, he gently brushed his fingers over the gifts on the table. His gaze fell upon the phone on the dressing table. He directly pressed the screen to light it up, revealing a group photo of three people. The photo was taken during their second year of high school, showing them sitting in a row on a climbing frame, laughing heartily. Back then, they were wild and unrestrained, vibrant and beautiful. Before the screen went dark, he entered Heather's birthday, but the phone remained locked. He raised his hand and pressed in his own birthday. The phone clicked open with a soft snap. When the screen unlocked, the first thing that caught his eye were two unread messages from Rudolph to Heather. "Heather, Kate is undergoing her heart transplant surgery today. Once it succeeds, you won't need to keep pretending anymore. We'll each go our separate ways and live our lives well." At this moment, Rudolph suddenly felt the phone in his palm grow unbearably heavy. He had actually sent such a message while she was fighting for her life in surgery. He truly deserved to die. After pulling Heather's friend back in, his trembling hands opened the photo album. The first thing that caught his eye was Heather's face, or more precisely, a group photo. In the picture, Heather's face occupied only a small corner, while the rest of the space was filled with all the students of Class 1, Grade 12. Back then, he had refused to let Heather take the graduation photo, yet she had found a way to include herself in the class memento like this. At this moment, Rudolph reached the peak of regret in his heart. "Heather, I'm sorry, if only I hadn't driven you away back then. But there's no cure for regret in this world. No amount of remorse could change anything." The second thing he opened was his phone's memo app. On the first page lay traces of what she had left before her death. The memo is dated July 29, 2024. "Today I will undergo surgery to give Kate my heart, and my life will end today. After I give my heart to Kate, Rudolph won't hate me anymore." Right, July 28, 2024. "I met Rudolph today. At first I thought it was a hallucination, but it was really him. He never wanted to see me in the first place. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't remember the way back. Rudolph said I was pretending to have dementia, that I was playing the victim, and told me to only show myself to him when I'm about to die, but I'm already dying. Still, being able to see him in my final moments makes me feel like I can die without regrets." July 25, 2024. Today, I was admitted to the hospital by Dr. Ivan. He said I only have a few days left, though honestly I already knew without him telling me. No one understands the state of their own health better than themselves. Truthfully, I'm not afraid of death, I just can't bear to let go. I want to see my younger brother get into university. I want to see Rudolph smile at me again. And I still want Kate to wake up. Haha, am I asking for too much? I saw a flyer from Clear Sky TV on my nightstand. They're planning to film a documentary about death. I signed up. If no family is with me at life's end, having them there wouldn't be a bad deal. As he watched, Rudolph, tears streamed down his face more and more. Just as he was about to continue scrolling, a link suddenly popped up on his phone. The premiere of the large-scale documentary The Endpoint, hosted by Clear Sky Television, is now available for viewing. Rudolph took a deep breath and, with trembling hands, opened the streaming app. The scene opens with Heather's monologue. Hello everyone, my name is Heather, a senior student from Class 1, Grade 12 at City N High School. I'm sorry to meet you all in this way. My death was inevitable. Like my grandmother and mother before me, I developed glioblastoma. Kate, by the time this program airs, you should have woken up, right? I really want to go back to the days when we were kids, riding our bikes and running wild through the streets. It's just a shame we can't go back anymore. Please carry my dreams with you and live well. In the next life, let's still be best friends. Heather said so many things. All jumbled and fragmented, but even through the screen, Rudolph could feel an overwhelming sense of oppression. Heather gradually trailed off after finishing her long speech. She looked utterly exhausted, as if she might collapse at any moment. Seeing her fatigue, the director fitted her with a chest-mounted camera, and as the lens moved, Rudolph saw his own pixelated image. The words he had spoken back then now sounded like a boomerang, stabbing him repeatedly with excruciating pain. Heather returned with the nurse's assistance and sat in the ward all night. On the third day, she was wheeled straight into the operating room. Only when a piece of ice was shoved into her mouth did her lifeless eyes finally glimmer with faint, fragmented starlight. The incandescent light flicked on with a sharp snap. Only the beeping of the monitor and the clinking of surgical blades remained in the surroundings. Beep, a prolonged electronic tone sounded as the monitor beside them suddenly flatlined. Heather lay covered in green sterile drapes as the surgeon made the first incision into her chest. Blood spilled out. Rudolph's heart seemed to be slit open along with it. Rudolph's grip tightened, his eyes instantly turning red. His heartbeat seemed to cease at this very moment. As he prepared to turn off his phone, the camera pulled further away, and the narration began. Heather's life truly ends here. Let's look forward to the end part 2. Meanwhile, a mechanical heart was wheeled into the operating room. Rudolph's chest tightened abruptly. A mechanical heart? Is this meant for Heather? Heather, is she still alive? Did she not die? Rudolph kept searching for the end part 2, but he scoured the entire internet without finding any news about the sequel. Overwhelmingly, all that came flooding in was a torrent of curses directed at him. Production team, remove the mosaic from this guy's face so we can avoid this scumbag. Seriously, Heather is so nice, yet he still said such cruel things to her. What kind of person does that? People like him deserve to be doxxed. Why bother blurring his face? Exactly, Kate's injury was just an accident. Why blame Heather, who's also a victim? Do you think Heather is dead? If the production team says so, they probably didn't die, right? Otherwise, wouldn't there be a wave of criticism when it airs in summer? But the monitor showed a flat line. That's just for dramatic effect, typical TV station antics. Rudolph slowly scrolled through the comments. Seeing those waves of criticism and speculation about Heather being alive made him feel slightly better. Yes, he truly was a scumbag. Though he knew Kate's accident wasn't Heather's fault, he still lashed out at her with those cruel words. Now looking back, every word he'd said to Heather had become a knife stabbing into his own heart. His hands trembling, he took out his phone and flipped to the photo album. Heather, look, this is your exam admission ticket. I've already signed you up for the same university as me. We can still go to school together in the future. I was just really angry at the time. What I said was a bit harsh, but how could you believe all of it? If I really hated you, if I truly despised you, why would I help you apply to the same university as me? Rudolph took a deep breath and stroked Heather's photo. When you're better, let's go to university together. Okay, his Heather couldn't possibly be dead, she just didn't want to see him, so she hid herself away. Rudolph, with this thought, he wiped away his tears and prepared to descend, yet recalling the words he'd heard that day, and the urn Ollie had carried back from the funeral home, he hesitated again. That day, he had heard the doctor's words with perfect clarity. The volunteer's brain tumor resuscitation failed. How is it still alive now? With this thought, Rudolph called the production team. Hello, I'd like to ask whether Heather is alive or dead. When he asked this question, Rudolph had a heavy tremor in his voice. He was terrified, afraid that Heather might truly be dead. But what if she was still alive? There wasn't the slightest pause on the other end of the line. Sir. Please stay tuned for the next episode of our show The End. Rudolph clenched his phone tightly. When is the next episode coming out? The voice on the other end replied. This time next year. Hearing this answer, Rudolph felt his heart sink with a thud. Next year? Can't you tell me now? I'm sorry, sir. There's nothing I can do about it. After hanging up the phone, Rudolph walked downstairs. Heather's urn was down there, and he wanted to see it, with the preview of the end. He simply couldn't believe Heather was really gone like that. In the Wen family's living room, 3 portrait photographs of the deceased and 3 urns were placed. Heather's father, mother, and Heather herself. Rudolph walked over and gently touched the pink urn, his heart aching so much he could barely breathe. The rope always snaps at its thinnest part. Misfortune seeks out those already burdened by fate. Heather first lost her mother, then her father, and later was diagnosed with a glioblastoma. He even hurled harsh words at her. Rudolph took a deep breath and slowly lifted the lid of the urn. Rudolph, what are you doing? Ollie suddenly pushed the door open and rushed in. Placing his hand on the urn, Rudolph stared at the closed urn, then turned to gaze intently into Ollie's eyes, searching for the truth within them. Ollie, tell me, is Heather really dead? But all he saw in those eyes was anger. Rudolph, do you want my sister to find no peace even in death? He clutched Heather's ashes tightly, as if he wanted to devour them whole. Get out of my house and never come back. You're not welcome in the Wen family. With that, Ollie pushed Rudolph out the door. Rudolph stood outside the house, staring at the tightly shut door. He stood quietly in the courtyard, gazing in the direction of the Wen family's home, his heart weighed down by an indescribable heaviness. After all this effort, he still hadn't found the answers he sought. At that moment, Mrs. Elton's phone call came through. Rudolph, go stay at your uncle's place for a few days. Kate doesn't want to see you, so don't come to the hospital. Rudolph responded with a sullen and hung up the phone, but he didn't move even a single step. Ollie stood in the room, watching everything outside, and let out a cold laugh. Rudolph, why come asking me now when you had all the time before? Sister had suffered enough. Yet they still treated her this way. He didn't hate Rudolph, but he hated himself for not discovering Sister's illness sooner, and hated himself for not listening to her back then. He meticulously cleaned every corner of the house, sweeping the floors and wiping down the cabinets. Then he wrapped up all the household items until exhaustion overtook him, finally curling up on the sofa for a nap. As the morning sun rose, its first rays streamed inside. Ollie opened his eyes to see Rudolph still standing in the yard, unmoved from yesterday's position. He had no sympathy whatsoever. All of this was his own doing. Ollie dialed Dr. Ivan's number. Dr. Ivan, I've cleared everything out. Please arrange my transfer. Every memory here was filled with sorrow. He neither wished nor intended to stay in this place any longer. Dr. Ivan heard his words and replied directly. All right, I'll come pick you up right away, soon. Several cars arrived outside the courtyard. Rudolph watched as they loaded the items onto the vehicles one by one, only then realizing something was amiss. Ollie, why are you loading all these things onto the cars? This time, Ollie didn't refuse to answer. I'm moving out. I can't stand staying in this place for another moment. I don't want to see you, and neither does my sister. With that, he got straight into the car. Don't want to see me? Rudolph's body trembled slightly. Yes, none of them wanted to see him. The car sped away, kicking up a cloud of dust that covered Rudolph from head to toe. The idea of moving was brought up by Dr. Ivan. After sending Kate to the hospital, Dr. Ivan spoke to him. Ollie, your sister wants you to transfer to a new school for a fresh start. Are you willing? At that time, Ollie didn't understand why his sister wanted him to transfer schools, but he agreed anyway. Where does sister want me to go? Dr. Ivan said. City J. City J is over 300 kilometers in a straight line from City N, a very, very long distance. Ollie didn't want to go. City J is too far from City N. I don't want to be that far from home. Dr. Ivan sighed. This was your sister's arrangement. She's currently receiving treatment in America and will return once she's recovered. Ollie moved away, and soon after, this place got a new owner. Rudolph no longer had the chance to stand beneath the camphor tree gazing at Heather's room. Heather's phone was taken with him, and every night he would read through Heather's memos before sleeping. That night, after reading the memos, he had a long dream. In the dream, Heather was a healthy person. But she remembered everyone except him. As soon as he got close, Heather would avoid him like the plague. He could only watch from afar. Days passed, and even when Rudolph entered his sophomore year, he still had the same dream every night, yet he still wished to drown in the dream, never to wake. Kate balanced rehabilitation with studying, eventually getting into the same university as Rudolph. The siblings' relationship never fully returned to how it was when Heather was still alive, but it had improved considerably. After the heart transplant, Kate developed many new habits. Rudolph always saw Heather's shadow in Kate. She used to love strawberry milk tea. But now she's taken to drinking lemon water. When she returned with lemon water once again, Rudolph couldn't help but ask, "Kate, didn't you like strawberry milk tea?" Kate paused momentarily. "Strawberry milk tea is too sweet. I prefer something tart like lemonade." Rudolph froze for an instant when a voice suddenly sounded by his ear. "Rudolph, 1 strawberry milk tea and 1 lemonade." Someone asked, "Strawberry milk tea is delicious. Don't you like it?" She smiled and said, "Strawberry milk tea is too sweet. I prefer lemon water with a bit of sourness." Rudolph lowered his eyes slightly. "The one who likes lemon water is Heather." Kate paused and said nothing more. She didn't know why she no longer liked strawberry milk tea after her heart transplant, but had instead fallen in love with lemon water. Rudolph saw that Kate had answered his question today, so he asked again, "Kate, you're close with Ollie. Has he ever told you about Heather?" Kate's hand holding the milk teacup paused for a moment. "You should go ask Ollie about this." Rudolph's throat tightened. "But you know he doesn't like me." Ollie would turn and walk away every time he saw Rudolph. Even when he couldn't leave, he wouldn't give Rudolph a friendly look, and wouldn't say a single word about Heather, not to mention wanting to know Heather's fate, whether she's alive or dead. Meanwhile, Ollie and Kate were growing closer. They always addressed each other as siblings. Their classmates thought they were brother and sister from different surnames, one taking their father's last name, the other their mother's. Kate stirred the lemonade in her cup. "Brother, you shouldn't be asking me about such things." With that, Kate left. Kate went to see Ollie after leaving. "Ollie, my brother asked me about Heather today," Ollie said coldly. "Did you tell him?" Kate shook her head. "No." Getting the answer, Ollie nodded. "Good." Back then, he had chosen to come to City J precisely to be with his sister and to stay away from Rudolph. But in the end, they still ended up at the same university. It was fate and also by design, but he just didn't want to let Rudolph off easy. The more miserable Rudolph was, the happier he became. "But my brother will find out soon." Kate looked at the notice in her hand and said to him, "Tomorrow, Heather will be back, right?" Ollie shook his head. "No, she's already here." As soon as he finished speaking, the slender figure walked over and hugged Kate. "Kate, long time no see." Kate felt the warmth beside her, her entire body trembling slightly. "Heather, I've missed you so much." She had known through Ollie long ago that Heather was still alive, and she had been receiving treatment in the United States as a drug trial participant. She and Ollie wanted to go see, but before the trial succeeded, they simply couldn't enter the testing facility. They could only video call once a month. This time, they finally met. Heather gently hugged Kate. "I miss you so much too." When she woke up and learned that her heart had finally saved Kate, she knew her decision to donate her heart wasn't wrong. The only pity was that she simply couldn't return to China, and they couldn't come to America to see her either. When the two met, tears instantly blurred their vision. Kate looked Heather up and down from head to toe. "Heather, how could you be so foolish? If you hadn't replaced your mechanical heart back then, you would have really died." Heather shook her head. "I already said in the end that giving you my heart was my own choice. And you see, now both of us are alive and well, that's the best possible outcome." Meanwhile, Rudolph sat in his dorm room and opened the program under the end. The video preview began playing. "Rudolph, I'm sorry to say goodbye to you this way. By the time you see this documentary, I'll already be dead." Heather's voice trembled, each word piercing straight into Rudolph's heart. A year later, hearing these words again, Rudolph's eyes still reddened uncontrollably. The preview ended, and the documentary officially began. A mechanical heart was carefully placed into Heather's chest by the doctor. When the green line on the monitor flickered again, Rudolph finally let out a sigh of relief. "I knew it. I just knew you wouldn't die." The scene shifts. Heather is wheeled out of the operating room. The cameraman turns the lens to the director. "You guessed it right. Heather isn't dead. America has developed a new drug for glioblastoma." Heather herself wanted to try living differently. When we filmed the documentary later, we discussed the mechanical heart with her. Heather said the moment doctors declared her dead, she entrusted everything afterwards to our production team's arrangements. Later we unanimously decided that the program would fund her mechanical heart and send her to America for drug trials, gambling everything on whether she'd live or die. Life, this heart transplant will save 2 people. Death, her friend will live on in her place. As the director finished speaking, Heather was put on a plane bound for America. In the U.S., she underwent various treatments and endured countless life or death rescues. In the end, she finally conquered her illness and survived. The documentary ended. Rudolph's heart, which had been tense for a year, finally relaxed. It's great that you're still alive, but why haven't you contacted me all this time? Turning off his phone, Rudolph called Mrs. Elton. Mom, Heather isn't dead. She just went to the U.S. for treatment. Mom, I want to go find her. A year of longing, and when he learned that Heather was still alive, Rudolph's heart had already flown to America. He wanted to go find her. Even if Heather didn't want to see him, he would still bring her back. Mrs. Elton heard Rudolph's words, and her heart grew excited as well. All right, go find her. Bring her back quickly. After hanging up the phone, Rudolph was about to book a ticket when he received an exchange student list on his phone. The name ranked third on that list was none other than Heather. Gazing at those 3 long-cherished characters, his heart soared once more. Heather. Is it the one I'm thinking of? At this thought, he immediately bolted toward the academic advisor's office. Before even entering, he spotted the girl standing in the hallway, the very person who'd occupied his thoughts day and night. Heather. Heather saw Rudolph and flashed him a bright smile. Rudolph, I'm back, you. Before she could finish speaking, she was already enveloped in Rudolph's warm embrace. Heather, I've never hated you all these years. I was just angry that you abandoned Kate, but deep down I truly knew every explanation you gave was the truth. I just couldn't let it go. This whole year, I've dreamed of you night after night. In my dreams you'd avoid me, ignore me. Heather, I'm really scared. Can you forgive me? He was afraid. Afraid that the person before him would avoid him as distantly as in his dream. Feeling Rudolph's heaving chest, Heather's eyes grew moist. Rudolph, I never blamed you. Nor ever thought to avoid you. Heather just didn't know what kind of emotions she should bring to meet him. So much has happened this past year that she had long since grown indifferent to everything. Hearing Heather's words, Rudolph held her even tighter. Then, can we ever go back to how we were before? A year of life and death separation had matured them both considerably. Rudolph knew he couldn't live without Heather. It was the trailer of that documentary that had kept him from going mad in the first place. Heather shook her head gently. Rudolph, we can't go back. Heather clearly understood her feelings for him, yet she didn't dare take another step forward. Loving someone was too painful. She feared her mechanical heart couldn't bear the weight. As she spoke, Heather pulled away from Rudolph's embrace and placed his hand on her wrist. I'm just a living dead now. Who knows when I might never wake up again. As soon as he touched Heather's skin, Rudolph instinctively held his breath. Why don't you have a pulse? It was completely still there, no rise and fall, no rhythm. Heather gently withdrew her hand. I have a mechanical heart. When the device stops working one day, I'll disappear. As soon as the words were spoken, Rudolph's mind buzzed as if struck by something. How could this be? At this moment, Kate and Ollie approached from a distance. Sis, have you completed the enrollment procedures? Ollie pushed past Rudolph and stood beside Heather. Heather nodded. All done, let's go. With that, she walked past Rudolph. Rudolph wanted to follow, but was directly blocked by Ollie. What are you still following for? He just couldn't stand Rudolph, who showed no sense of responsibility at all. His sister had explained countless times that she didn't intentionally abandon Kate, yet he still blamed her. Such people deserve to suffer a bit. Rudolph gave a bitter laugh. I don't want to do anything. I just regret staying by your sister's side. Ollie scoffed coldly. My sister has me. She doesn't need your company. Kate spoke up at this moment. Brother, Heather has already returned. If you still want to be with Heather, show your sincerity, instead of clinging to her like a creep. In the evening, Mr. Elton and Mrs. Elton learned that Heather had returned and asked Kate to call her over. Heather, if you don't want to go, I can help you decline. Heather shook her head. It's all right. I'll go. What happened back then wasn't anyone's fault. Besides, Mr. Elton and Mrs. Elton have genuinely taken care of her all these years. Moreover, Ollie was living alone in City J, and Mr. Elton and Mrs. Elton had helped him a great deal. Now that she was back, it was only right to meet. Heather arrived to find Mrs. Elton had already prepared a lavish dinner. As she saw Heather approach, her eyes were filled with deep apology. Heather, you've suffered so much this year. If it weren't for you, my Kate might have already. Will you still acknowledge me as your godmother? Heather grasped Mrs. Elton's hand. Everything is in the past now. We must look forward. Initially, Mrs. Elton blaming and resenting her was only human nature, and she didn't hold it against them. Even she herself had blamed herself at first. She was ill and didn't have long to live. If she could exchange places with Kate, it would be a good thing. Mrs. Elton held Heather's hand, her eyes dim with emotion. Yes. It's all over now, it's time to move forward. After finishing the meal, Heather returned to Ollie's rented small house. She looked at her parents' ashes, gently wiping them with a cloth. Mom, Dad, your daughter is back. I've missed you both so much this past year. I participated in a new drug trial for glioblastoma in the U.S., and my illness was cured. You must have been watching over me from above, right? They all said joining the drug trial was a life-or-death gamble. But I survived. This is my rebirth. As she spoke, Heather gazed at the stars in the sky, her eyes welling up with tears once more. I used to worry constantly that my younger brother wouldn't get into college, but now it seems all my fears were unnecessary. He's always been such a sensible boy. Our lives will surely get better and better from now on. As she was speaking, Ollie walked over. Sis, I was too foolish back then, but I just didn't want you to work so hard at that time. Heather spent every day either studying or working part-time. He didn't want his sister to be so exhausted. That's why he wanted to earn money himself. The only thing he knew was gaming, so he skipped classes to go to internet cafes. Heather gently pinched Ollie's ear. It was your sister who didn't understand you. Now I know our Ollie has always been the most amazing. As soon as she finished speaking, Ollie's ears suddenly turned red. On the third day, the school held an exchange student welcoming ceremony. Heather went to school early in the morning. After the principal finished speaking, Heather and the group of exchange students stood on the stage. After the self-introductions were done, the welcoming performance began on stage. Heather had just stepped off the stage when a crowd of classmates surrounded her. Someone cautiously asked, "Classmate, are you Heather from the end?" Heather nodded. Yes. The person covered their mouth. Really? That's wonderful. I've been so worried about you. Span. Heather looked at the tears welling up in her eyes. Everything is in the past now. I'm doing just fine. The girl looked at her and asked again, "So what happened between you and that man in the video in the end?" Heather hadn't spoken yet when Rudolph walked over from the side. "I'm pursuing her." Hearing this, the girl's eyes widened in surprise. "I knew it, you didn't really mean those harsh words." Rudolph hadn't expected her to say that, especially since the internet was flooded with criticism against him after the video was released. "Why do you think I didn't mean those harsh words?" The girl's voice carried a hint of joy. "Because I've also experienced something similar to what you're going through. And I was the one who said the harsh words." The girl's name is Susie, a senior college student. After watching the end, she had always liked Heather and constantly worried about her. Because she had been through similar experiences, she could deeply understand her feelings. "It's just that I can never see him again now." What happened to them was almost identical to her own story, except she wasn't as fortunate as Rudolph and Heather. Her lover died the day after she said those cruel words to him. Susie looked at Rudolph. "You still have a chance. Don't give up." Rudolph relaxed his brows slightly. "I will." He never expected that while the entire internet was telling him to let Heather go, someone would actually support him. The performance ended. Heather and Rudolph had just stepped out of the grand hall when they encountered reporters from Sunny Sky Television. "Miss Heather, may we have a quick interview? Many viewers are curious about your life after returning to the country." Heather owed her life to the people at Sunny Sky Television, so she couldn't refuse. As the camera focused on her, she smiled and waved at the lens. "Hello to all the viewers in front of the TV. I'm Heather." The reporter looked at her healthy appearance and said with a smile, "The audience is very curious about what your relationship is with the male protagonist in the end." Heather glanced at Rudolph beside her. "We are friends." As she finished speaking, Rudolph chimed in, "I'm pursuing her, and I hope everyone can bear witness for me." Hearing this, the reporter raised an eyebrow and turned the camera toward Rudolph. "Oh, but last year your attitude towards Miss Heather wasn't good." Rudolph's eyes darkened. "Last year I was being foolish. Said things I shouldn't have, and I'll never make that mistake again." The reporter nodded. "Mr. Sierre, our audience has been calling you a scumbag and wants us to remove your mosaic. What do you think about that?" Rudolph's palms grew slightly damp with sweat as he clenched his fists. "We can remove it. I want to hold hands with Heather and appear before thousands of spectators. I don't agree with them calling me a scumbag. In my heart, there's only Heather. It was her before, it's her now, and it will always be her. Now I swear to you all, if I ever do anything to wrong Heather, may I be scorned by thousands." After the reporter left, Heather and Rudolph walked down the osmanthus-lined path of the school. Aren't you afraid they'll dox you? Back then, Heather recorded those words Rudolph said to her in front of the intensive care unit. After the end, Part 1, aired, he was viciously criticized by viewers for a year. And even after the end, Part 2, aired, the barrage of comments still showed nothing but condemnation towards him. Many people have been clamoring for the production team to remove Rudolph the Mosaic from his face, wanting to dox him. Rudolph smiled bitterly. Actually, I've already been doxed. Back then, some people found me and said I wronged you. Thinking back to everything that happened, Rudolph looked into Heather's eyes. But I think none of this matters more than you coming back, than you being by my side, at that time, to deal with those people who kept coming to their door. The Elton family spent a great deal of effort. In the end, they moved to City J before things gradually got better. He wasn't afraid before, and now that Heather is back, he's even less afraid. This interview was broadcast very quickly. The barrage of comments was still full of hostility. But amidst the content, Heather actually found some supporting Rudolph. What amused Heather the most was that the mosaic on Rudolph's face was gone, but there were 2 extra words on his face: remove. The comments were flooded with "remove bro, ha 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 ha, who's the editor for this variety show? The remove words on his face are hilarious. Remove bro, you can remove it. I want to hold hands with Heather in front of thousands of viewers. This brother cutoff really has no shame. His words give me the same vibe as I just made the mistake all men make. Exactly, girl, don't forgive him. A man's words are a devil's lies. Want to chase after Heather, did we agree to that? Back when she was nearly dying, she still thought of you and donated her heart to your sister. How did you treat her? Shameless. Ha ha ha, looking at it now, brother cutoff isn't that bad, just too sharp-tongued. But seeing his regret put my mind at ease. Reading these comments, Heather burst out laughing. They call you Mr. Filter, what do you think about that? Rudolph shrugged indifferently. Call me whatever you want means call me whatever you want, as long as you're by my side. I don't care what you call me, I just hope you can give me a chance. Rudolph doesn't care what others think of him, he only cares about Heather. Saying this in front of the entire nation is also meant to have everyone bear witness. Heather looked into his eyes, and her heart ached. Rudolph, we should look ahead. This morning's class was programming. Heather had just sat down with Rudolph. Just then, they heard the surrounding classmates talking. I heard we're getting a new programming teacher, specially hired from the US. I wonder if they'll be easy to get along with. Really? Who told you that? What about our old teacher, retired? That's the latest news I just got. As the words fell, the school bell rang, footsteps sounded outside the door, and a tall figure came to a stop at the entrance. Coming, everyone stared at the doorway, holding their breath. Heather had never interacted with the previous teacher, so she wasn't particularly concerned about who the new teacher might be. Yet when the new teacher pushed the door open and spoke to her with a faint smile, she still froze for a moment. Hello everyone, I'm Dave, your programming teacher from now on. Noticing Heather's unusual reaction, Rudolph asked, what's wrong? Heather shook her head. It's nothing. I just didn't expect to see Dave here. Heather, after going to the United States, Dave was specifically responsible for the maintenance of the mechanical heart. He and Heather were about the same age, and as they interacted more, the two became familiar with each other. At that time, Dave said, Heather, you are truly outstanding. I've already fallen in love with you. When you recover, I want you to marry me. Dave's emotions were so sincere and intense that they caught her off guard. Dave, you know, I no longer have any thoughts about love. Her heart first stirred for Rudolph, and ended with Rudolph. Now she just wants to live out the rest of her life in peace. Dave had watched that variety show and knew everything about Heather. He looked down upon Rudolph, believing that with just a little more effort on his part, Heather would forget Rudolph and choose him instead. Are you talking about Rudolph's mom? But even when you're this sick, he hasn't come to see you once. He doesn't deserve your love. Later, Dave continued to treat her just as before, without any change. No matter how Heather refused, it was useless. On the day she returned to her home country, Dave still went to see her off. Heather, you go first. I'll come find you once I've sorted things out here. At the time, Heather thought Dave was just joking, never expecting he was actually serious. After the class ended, Heather waited until all the other students had left before approaching Dave. Dave, what brings you here? Dave smirked at her. I came for you. As he spoke, he also shot a glance at Rudolph. Heather, I've come to your homeland. Won't you treat me to a meal? Dave had come from afar, so Heather took him to the nearest Western restaurant. Inside the restaurant, the melodious sound of a violin filled the air. Heather, however, found herself surrounded by an unspoken tension. Rudolph, unwilling to let the two of them be alone together, had followed along. At the table for four, two men sat facing each other, Heather in the middle, feeling the scorching gazes from both sides. She couldn't take it anymore and waved for the waiter. "Waiter, we're ready to order." The meal was eaten with three different minds at the table. Before parting, Dave said directly in front of Rudolph, "Heather, this man isn't much either. He's really not worth you sacrificing so much for." Rudolph took a deep breath. "I'm not worth her sacrifices, but are you?" Sparks flew as their eyes met. At that very moment, Heather felt a sudden sharp pain in her chest and collapsed straight to the ground. Rudolph quickly reached out, but was a step slower than Dave. "Heather, are you all right?" he asked nervously. Dave frowned. "Shut up, if you don't want her to die. Get the car over here now." After speaking, Dave quickly tore open Heather's clothes to inspect the mechanical heart. Rudolph didn't dare delay and quickly drove the car over the hospital. Heather was wheeled into the operating room. Dave changed into surgical scrubs and headed toward the operating room with the other doctors. "The patient's mechanical heart has malfunctioned, with platelet aggregation forming a thrombus. We need to perform thrombolysis immediately." Rudolph stood aside, watching them go in, his heart suspended in midair. How could this be? Wasn't she already better? Why would she faint again? Heather remained in the operating room for how long? Rudolph researched mechanical hearts outside for just as long. Finally, he came to understand all the various drawbacks of using a mechanical heart. 2 hours later, Heather was wheeled out of the operating room. Inside the hospital room, Heather was still unconscious. Rudolph, Kate, and Ollie all kept vigil by the bedside. The sound of footsteps approached from outside the door, and Dave, fresh from surgery, appeared at the threshold. "Rudolph, come outside with me for a moment." Rudolph saw him and his fingertips trembled slightly. Dave is a world-renowned expert in mechanical hearts. If it weren't for him today, Heather might have been in mortal danger, and himself, just an ordinary sophomore. What could he possibly offer Heather? "Mr. Dave, what brings you here?" Rudolph stood before Dave, feeling utterly ridiculous for the first time. Dave pointed at Heather in the hospital room and said, "What do you feel when you see her like this?" Rudolph twisted his fingertips. "I'm very sad." Dave looked at him. "You can't give her a future at all. Her heart could fail at any moment. Only I can make it beat forever." Hearing this, Rudolph's eyes darkened momentarily. "This is only temporary. I will give her a future." With that, he walked out of the hospital. Heather stayed in the hospital for 3 days before being discharged. During those 3 days, Rudolph only visited once. He said to Heather, "Heather, I'm sorry. I didn't know there would be so many side effects after installing the mechanical heart. I'll give you a future in my own way." Heather didn't understand his words. Only in the following days, she never saw Rudolph again. He vanished from her side as if evaporated into thin air. Even Mr. Elton and Mrs. Elton didn't know where he had gone. Heather didn't mind. Rudolph might have gone to seek his own life, and she too had to move toward the life that belonged to her. It was only heard that America had gained another researcher studying mechanical hearts. The year she graduated, Heather used her scholarship and the money she had saved before to buy a burial plot for Heather's dad and mom. The cemetery is surrounded by mountains and water, offering a panoramic view of the entire city. Previously, Heather's dad didn't place Heather's mom's ashes in the cemetery because Heather's mom was afraid of the dark. Heather's dad didn't want her to sleep alone underground, thinking they could choose a prime feng shui spot to be buried together after his death. Later, when Heather's dad passed away, Heather and her siblings couldn't afford a burial plot. Elton's family offered to arrange the burial for them, but she didn't want to owe them any more favors, so she refused. Now, she had finally saved enough money to buy a burial plot. The two small boxes were placed closely together. Just like how Heather's dad and Heather's mom used to lean against each other. Back then, Heather's dad and Heather's mom were always considered a model couple. At that time, Heather hoped that she and Rudolph would be as loving as her parents one day. Only, what happened later was something none of them could have anticipated. But everything has cleared up after the rain. "Mom, Dad, you'll be living here from now on. Ollie and I will visit often. You've worked hard all your lives, it's time to rest properly." The university years passed in the blink of an eye. On graduation day, Heather sat in the auditorium, staring at the seat beside her labeled with Rudolph's name. For a moment, she felt dazed. After all these years, she still had no idea where he'd gone. Just then, Kate approached. "What, looking for my brother?" Heather shook her head. "No, just wondering where he's been these past 2 years. Kate smiled knowingly. "Don't worry, he'll definitely be back for such an important occasion today." Heather looked at her. "Do you know where he's been these past 2 years? Kate blinked. "Of course I knew. But Big Brother said he wanted to surprise you, so he never told you." Heather was about to ask more when thunderous applause suddenly erupted throughout the auditorium. The principal took the stage. After delivering an impassioned speech, the tassel-turning ceremony for graduates began. One by one, students took the stage to have their tassels ceremoniously turned by the principal, symbolizing their successful graduation. Heather was the last to take the stage. As the principal moved the tassel on her graduation cap from the right side to the left, she was about to step down when the principal stopped her. "Heather, you are our school's mechanical angel. One of our outstanding graduates. Today our school also has an outstanding alumnus returning. He developed the world's first never-stopping heart for us. I'd like you to take my place in performing the tassel-turning ceremony for him." As the words fell, Heather saw a long unseen figure approaching from behind the auditorium, clad in academic robes. "Heather, I've finally created the future for you." After 2 years apart, Rudolph had long shed his youthful naivety. Now carrying the composure forged by time, gazing at the man before her and the mechanical heart displayed on the large screen, Heather felt momentarily dazed. She reached out to adjust the tassel for him. After completing the ritual, Rudolph continued speaking. "Heather, during these 2 years apart, I personally developed this mechanical heart for you. As long as the sun doesn't set, this heart will never stop beating. This is my promise for your future." As the words fell, warm applause erupted from the audience. After completing the tassel-turning ceremony, Heather was about to leave when Rudolph spoke. "Heather, I have one more surprise for you." With that said, he took Heather by the hand and headed toward the playground. Upon arriving at the playground, she saw a massive banner. City No. 1 High School Class 1, Grade 12, Graduation Photo 2024. The people holding the banner looked slightly different from the senior classmates she remembered. But upon closer inspection, she realized she knew every single one of them. They were all waving at her, dressed in their senior high school uniforms. "Heather, hurry up, you're the only one missing." Gazing at those familiar faces before her, she felt as if she'd been transported back to that summer of 2024. Lost in thought, Rudolph dressed her in the school uniform and pulled her along. "Everyone's waiting. Let's hurry up and take the photo." The morning sun hung high, and cicadas began their chorus once more. After 4 years, Heather finally took a genuine high school graduation photo. She stood amidst her Class 1, Grade 12 classmates, tightly encircled at the center, receiving uniquely special treatment. After the graduation photo was taken, Heather and Rudolph lay on the vast lawn gazing at the sky. As the scent of fresh grass drifted into their noses, Rudolph suddenly spoke. "Heather, can we renew our vow from back then?" Heather turned to look at him. "Depends on your performance." With that, she got up and ran into the distance. At 15, Heather once said, "Rudolph, after the college entrance exams, I'll be your girlfriend." At 15, Rudolph once said, "Heather, after university, I'll marry you." But they didn't end up together after the exams. And now that university is over, their story is just beginning. Under the summer sun, Rudolph closely followed Heather's footsteps as he chased after her, among 1,000 possible futures. The only one he desired was with her. The end.